Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis Damian Podcast, episode 79. We're available on anchor.fm/Travis Damian Podcast, along with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. Today, we're going to be talking about entertainment and gaming news, including Matt Reeves' The Batman and the Lego Star Wars game. Then we'll get into our recent activities, such as Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and my dress-up darling anime. Lastly, our discussion about Microsoft purchasing Activision Blizzard. So, first piece of news is Marvel Studios officially released their first look at the Moon Knight Disney Plus show, and reception was pretty good. I mean, when this trailer dropped, I'm pretty sure it was on like #1 trending on YouTube, so people are very, very excited for this show, me included. I think that this character, I didn't know how in depth that they could get with him, because my prior knowledge to Moon Knight is just like certain cameos and certain games and certain Spider-Man adaptations, but it seems like that they are really going all in and sort of giving us a really good adaptation of the character, hopefully. And what's his name playing the role? I forget. Poe from Star Wars is all I really know him for, but he seems to be really taking this role seriously, and I cannot wait to see how well this show does. And people were drawing a lot of parallels between this show and Daredevil. Obviously, this is under Disney, so it's probably not going to be as dark as Daredevil was on Netflix, but I feel like that this show is going to be a lot of fun and probably very, very dark as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not gonna be as dark as something like the Netflix Marvel shows, obviously, because you know it's on Disney Plus. But just watching the trailer, I was like, I forgot this was like a Disney Plus show for a second. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Disney Plus show, because the quality of it just looks very like movie. I mean, I know that was the thing with like every Marvel show. Like Disney Plus doesn't really like skimp on the budget or anything. I think the only thing that looks a little wacky might be like the CG, like towards the end, just a little bit, but it looks pretty good still. And it's gonna be interesting to see, like you said, like more of his backstory, because again, I also only known him from like cameos in different video games he's been in, and like the memes or whatever, like random bullshit go. Like I remember that meme, but
apparently that's like, fake.
Well, I know he doesn't say that, right?
Yeah,
but, like, I know the image is like that. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to like learn about his backstory and stuff, because I didn't even know he was like, oh, like he's like an insomniac or something, like he can't sleep. Like I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea besides his costume. So yeah, right now it's looking pretty good. You know, I think the Marvel shows, I know some people are kind of hit or miss with them, but I enjoyed all of them. You know, some of them I like more than others, but you know, for the most part, I think they've been knocking it out with all the shows, and I think this one has a contender to probably be my favorite. Like right now, Loki's my favorite right now. So just looking how this is going, then yeah, I'm just excited to see a new hero. You know?
Yeah, I mean, definitely this show. You know, all of the Marvel shows feel like a Marvel movie, 100%. But this one, I don't know what it is. I think you definitely brought up a good point that like this one doesn't exactly feel like a Marvel show. Maybe it's because of the way it's shot. Maybe it's just because it's a lot, not necessarily like darker in tone, but like actually like darker. Like there's a lot of sort of like not as good lighting, probably on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, this show, I feel like that this is going to be very, very interesting. And I think that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on this one, just like with all of the other Marvel shows respectively. But I think that this one, I think a lot more people are going to be watching this one.
Yeah, I suspect this one's probably going to be the most popular Marvel show. I don't know which one actually was the most popular. Probably like either WandaVision or Loki, right? Because WandaVision was the first one, and you know Loki's very popular. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I know Hawkeye was the least viewed one, because you know it's Hawkeye, even though it was good, but you know,
yeah,
you know, yes. What was the thing? I can't remember. People memed it because like, oh, you got working your image or whatever, like to send the show. but yeah, Moon Knight. It looks sick. I hope it's good. I think it comes out. When does it come out? Next month.
It comes out at the end of March.
March 30th. So, yeah.
You know, and I'm sure this is going to be like 8 episodes or something like that. I don't know the exact details, but you know, if we get 6 or 8 episodes of, you know, this stuff, I cannot wait to see what they are able to come up with.
Yeah, I think that's the longest show I think they've done then, right? If it's 8 episodes, because I think all of them are like 6 or something. I think.
I don't know. I was just spitballing, so.
Okay, well, if it was like 8 episodes, that'd be sick, because I think these Marvel shows some of them do need to be longer. Because I feel like they kind of rush some things towards the end, but hopefully they have the budget for that. I mean, they do, but you know.
All right, I just googled it. It's gonna be 6.
All right, never mind. All right, so next we got another show, the CUPHEAD show. So yeah, I think this was teased for a while already. Like we already knew this was happening, but we didn't actually know what it looks like, and it looks pretty good. Like I think the animation looks good. You know, obviously it has the rubber hose animation like the 30s like animation style, which is kind of important for Cuphead. Just the quality of the animation looks pretty good as well. Got some jokes and stuff. Don't really know how this is gonna work as just a show. I guess to just do random adventures and stuff and maybe like loosely follow the game. But I don't know. It looks pretty good. I really like Cuphead a lot. Like I love the game, and if they can make, I guess, the world more like wacky and fun, then I guess that works out because it's based off these type of cartoons anyway. So I guess it should work out just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't finished Cuphead personally. I remember playing it with our good friend Louis when it first came out in co-op, and that shit was insane.
Yeah.
And definitely one day I will sit down and actually play and finish this game. But yeah, I mean, the art style, the way that the characters are moving, it's probably going to be like you said, like a sort of like Saturday morning cartoon show where, they just go on wacky adventures and none of the stories really interconnect with one another. But because this is on Netflix, they probably could do that if they really wanted to. But yeah, it just seems like a really fun, wholesome sort of, funny show. There's jokes, there's sort of witty moments. The animation, like you said, is so on point, and I cannot sort of praise the team behind this show any more than probably the internet already has, just because like it just looks so goddamn good. And I guess this is what happens when you have Netflix behind it, and probably people that are working on this are passionate and very, very happy to be working on a series like this, the Cuphead show. And I feel like when people were, seeing the game, they were like, wow, this like actually looks like a cartoon. So I guess they were like, wait, what if we just made it a cartoon? So yeah, very, very cool to see that this is actually being made, and it's going to come out on Netflix February 18th on top of Netflix's already large library of everything else that they have and shit. So
yeah, like, Netflix animated stuff could, I mean, all Netflix is kind of hit or miss sometimes, but hopefully this is a hit for them because I can see it doing really well. I see it memed everywhere now. Like the show hasn't even came out yet, and I just see like people like are loving it already. So I think this show has a good like future ahead of it. I don't know how much you can really do with this, like you know what I mean, but again, it doesn't have to be this big interconnected story because this is not what this is like should be about. It should be like more of a Saturday morning cartoon thing, but like maybe to stop the devil from doing something every like episode or something. Like, it doesn't have to be like that serious. So it'd be like something fun to watch, and it make the wait for the DLC be less painful because I'm still waiting for that. But yeah, and if you haven't played Cuphead, I really recommend it. Like, it's hard, but it's worth it. Like, I played through that whole game, then I played it through hard mode. It's a very good game, and I'm happy to see it gain so much love. It's been like that game came out like 2017, so it's been a while. But I'm glad to see all these other things finally come up from this game because it deserves it.
All right, so next bit of news we got here is Matt Reeves' The Batman is going to be nearly 3 hours long in runtime. I believe that includes credits and everything. So yeah, I mean, I'm not that surprised by it. I feel like Matt Reeves, like, he really wanted to make a Batman movie, like an actual, like, really good Batman movie. And I think that he had a lot that he wanted to do. And I'm sure that there's still stuff that he had to cut away from the film, like with every single movie. But, I'm sure that all 3 hours of this movie are probably things that he feels is important to this version of Batman and important to the character, and I'm 100% fine with that. I know that there was like a lot of like discourse on Twitter about people like, oh my god, it's 3 hours, that's so long. And I'm like, I mean, you watched Endgame and stuff like that, I hope, and there's people out there that are able to binge Netflix shows, and depending on which ones you watch, each episode could be an hour long each. And yeah, I think that 3 hours for a Batman movie, this is the longest Batman movie by far for like a solo film, which is fine because I think that what Matt Reeves, people are maybe overhyping this movie a tad bit, but I think that it's rightfully so because everything that we've seen so far has been very true in nature to the Batman character, and it just seems like going in the direction that fans have been wanting since the Christopher Nolan movies ended all those years ago. So
yeah, I mean, I don't really have that issue with the length. Like, 3 hours is like on the long end, but most movies are probably like 2 hours and a half. So it's just like, might as well just add the extra 30 minutes if you need it. It's only really a problem if the pacing is bad or if like the story just feels like it's not going anywhere, which I don't think it's going to happen because, this is like a brand new Batman, and they probably have to establish a lot of things and like, how this Batman specifically works and stuff. So I think it's probably needed. So yeah, I don't really have an issue with that as long as they they take their time and like sort of just flesh out this Gotham, I guess. So we'll see how that is. In terms of overhyping it, again, I'll see when I see it, like if it's good or not. Again, I'm not like the biggest Batman fan ever, but I usually like everything that's been put out with the dude. So hopefully they do a good job with this as well. From all the trailers, it looks good. So hopefully they were able to make something that's good and not dumb. I think I said this last time that I hope they don't really connect it too much to like anything else. Like it's just focus on making it like its own Batman thing. Like don't even connect it to like the Joker or whatever. Like I don't think that would work out too well. I think the Joker works because he was like mostly by himself, like just there. So I think this movie would work if you just focus on Batman and like whatever the Riddler or whatever. So
yeah. I mean the DCEU has been sort of shifting away from that ever since the Justice League with Joss Whedon sort of taking over for that movie, and they saw how poorly that did, and there's a lot of other controversy around Joss Whedon and shit like that we won't get into. But yeah, I think that the DCEU is definitely best when they're just doing their own thing, and that has shown to be very, very good, like you said, with the Joker, Shazam. Even when they redid Zack Snyder's Justice League, a lot of people enjoyed that as just like a standalone film. And, keeping this new Batman movie away from all that stuff is probably warranted. And, people were making jokes on how like, it's 3 hours long. How long are these fucking riddles and shit like that, which, is a pretty good joke, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, I think that when this movie does get closer to its release, I believe sometime in March or something like that, we will see that, reviews will come out and people will actually start talking about the movie. And hopefully it does warrant those, sort of 3 hours. And if it's, straight across like 5 stars, 10 out of 10s, it's going to be a comic book movie that I think a lot of fans are going to see. And rightfully so, hopefully.
Yeah, like hopefully they don't bung it up. And it's like, I think they're on a good streak. The Joker was really good. The Suicide Squad was really good as well. I really like that movie. So hopefully this movie is also able to keep up that streak because, I think they have a stinker in there with the Wonder Woman sequel, but hopefully it won't stay like that. All right, so Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. So they released a gameplay overview. So I don't know if this was the first time we saw gameplay for this game. So all right, first of all, I'm not like a big Lego game person. Like I've always tried to get into them as a kid and just never really cared for them. And what I thought initially what this game was the first like Star Wars games they made, but remastered plus the new Skywalker Saga stuff. Like the new trilogy. That's what I thought it was. And I thought it was gonna be the same shit. Like, oh, you do some puzzles and you kill some dudes and get their like thingies or whatever. Like I thought it was just a typical Lego game. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I didn't know they were like totally revamping the whole game, and it's like it looks like an actual video game. I mean, no offense to any of the Lego fans listening to this. I have no problem with them. It's just not for me. But yeah, I didn't know it was like a total revamping of it. It actually looks pretty sick. Like the game runs a little crusty from the gameplay, but it does look pretty cool. I don't know if you have any thoughts on just the gameplay before I get into the other stuff.
Look. When I was younger, me and my brother, we played the first Lego Star Wars game with the prequel trilogy, and we 100% of that game. We played that game day in, day out for I don't even know how long, but we just played that game so much that we were able to finish everything. 100% got all of the collectibles, everything like that. So, as time went on, obviously, they made other Lego games such as the original trilogy, the Indiana Jones games, the Batman games, and I followed those, but, my brother sort of fell out with the Lego games, rightfully so, because, he was getting older, and I was still, like 10, 12, still playing the Lego Batman games and still having fun with them. So, like you said, when they initially sort of announced this game, because they've done it in the past where they just like repackage it and like just like redo it with like prettier graphics. Like they've done, I think on like Xbox 360 and PS3, it was like both Lego games with the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy in one game. And the Skywalker Saga, you probably think it would be the same thing where they just added on the Disney trilogy on there, but they are actually redoing like a lot of the gameplay stuff, actually remaking this like as a brand new game, which is very, very cool. And I'm kind of excited, kind of looking forward to playing it. I know that there's local co-op, but I'm not sure if there's online yet. That has not been confirmed nor denied, I believe. I was trying to look online to see if like anyone could really source that out. But yeah, I mean, like this game looks like probably the best Lego game that they've made so far. But the second part of this story is that Polygon released a article where they talked to several TT TT Games employees, former and maybe some current. I was sort of skimming through the article before we started the show, but it just seems like that there was a lot of extensive crunch, and some of it was purposeful, and a lot of these sort of like work conditions that they were under were obviously not ideal. So I'm very, very torn on whether or not I should probably pick this up or not. I probably won't, just because I'm just broke as fuck right now. I'm going to be honest.
Understandable.
But like the game itself, like it looks very, very good. Like, don't get me wrong, but the sort of like background and sort of like the history behind this game, and the fact that they are pushing so much for a 85, I think that was like a thing that they were pushing internally, like go for that 85, which is the 85 Metacritic score. Mm-hmm. I believe their highest Lego game score was like a 82, and that was for Lego Marvel Superheroes on the PS4, which like, Metacritic scores and everything like that, like I guess those are important internally at game studios. But me personally, I don't really pay attention to those, but I know that there's a lot of people that pay attention to scores very, very heavily, which is kind of like not how I see games personally and entertainment in general. Like, just because you slap a score on it doesn't mean that's the entire picture, but game studios and sort of game developers, they know better, and they know that a lot of people will look at those scores and either turn away from a game or just actually pick it up because it does have a high score to it. But that's not me, and I'm sure that that's not Damien either. But the extensive crunch that goes behind the scenes in the game industry in general is obviously not good. And I think that for a studio that works on Lego games, doing crunch as well is kind of crazy and very, very bizarre.
Yeah. First, with the Metacritic thing, yeah, apparently that's very important for a lot of these companies. Like, a famous example is the Fallout New Vegas. So when Obsidian was making that game, Bethesda's like, okay, this better get like an 80 or like an 85. I forgot what they wanted. Or else you guys won't like get any bonuses or whatever. And, Obsidian's like, okay, cool. Then it got like a 79, so it was like 1 point below what they wanted, and they didn't get any bonuses. So yeah, like they treat the Metacritic scores like really harshly. I actually think Osamake did that for Tools of Destruction as well. Like, they wanted like a 90, but I think got 89, and they also didn't get shit. I think they stopped doing that after that. Yeah, Tools of Destruction was kind of like a rough like like crunch time for Osamake. But yeah, so yeah, these companies do treat the Metacritic scores pretty harshly. Again, I don't really agree with that either. Like, I like to watch a lot of different reviews. Usually ones without scores, I usually don't even like care about the score, just what they're saying personally. Before I buy a game, I'm not really sure. Obviously, if it's a series I like I'll probably just buy it anyway. But if it's something I'm not too sure of, I like to watch multiple reviews, get multiple perspectives on it, and then like make the decision like that. A game getting like an 8 or a 7 or a 9 like doesn't matter as much to me. You know what I mean? It's just a good like consensus. And in terms of like the whole crunching thing, obviously it's awful. From what I heard, they were using like a new engine to make this game. And they've been making this game for like the past like 5-7 years. Like, they've been working on this Skywalker saga for like ever. Yeah. Apparently the engine just does not work well. And apparently just didn't want to pay royalties to Epic for Unreal, which would have made their life easier. And this happens to a lot of game companies. Like, Square Enix also made Final Fantasy 15 on the Luminous engine, which is like the own made engine, and it kind of sucked when they really should have just used like Unreal or something. So that's why we see so many companies using Unreal now, because it works. You know what I mean? It's not as many headaches. Like, you got to pay like the royalties for Epic and stuff, but it just causes way less stress for like these developers, and they have like outside sources if they need help with stuff. So yeah, every time you use a new engine is always going to be like rough. And just the crunch, like, hopefully this is like the last of it we're hearing. Probably not. It's like never gonna go away. But hopefully, like, at least for TT Games, hopefully this like makes them like, hey, like, stop it. I heard they got some new management too, so hopefully that fixes it. But you never know. It's always like a toss up. The same thing with Blizzard, which we're talking about later. Like, sometimes you just gotta hope it just gets better with new management, but sometimes it doesn't. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going back on sort of like review scores and stuff. I mean, like, I guess I'll sort of analyze myself, and I've said in the past where it's like, oh, like, this game got a 10 out of 10. Okay, yeah, like, I'll pick it up and like sort of like just try it out. And that happened with The Last of Us, and I instantly fell in love with that game. But when a game gets I guess like a bad score or sort of like a okay score, I'm not necessarily like, oh, like, now I'm not gonna play that game, or like sort of something like that. I mean, it's been a while since I've like sort of honed in on a game that I really, really wanted to play, then it ended up being like really bad, and then I decided to not buy it, sort of thing. Most of the time when I buy or like sort of purchase games, it's either I'm gonna buy it or I'm not, sort of thing. If that makes any sense, you know, because like, you know, when it comes to, because I guess for the most part recently, I've been mostly buying like, I guess like AAA titles. But when it comes to sort of like smaller stuff, I mean, I guess you could call like the Demon Slayer game and like the Brain Age game, like those games I was going to buy either way. Like I wanted to buy those games and sort of like try them out, like either way, whether they were good or bad. And from my understanding, both of those games are like relatively decent. Obviously they have their problems and issues that I haven't looked into personally, but you know, I'm not necessarily, you know, out here clamoring for like review scores and things like that. Obviously, when stuff gets 10 out of 10s and like perfect scores, it obviously catches a lot of eyes. For example, Pokemon Legends Arceus, I think it was yesterday or the other day, several outlets gave it a 5 out of 5. And I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of crazy for a Pokemon game, to be honest. So
I was kind of going to talk about that. With Arceus, obviously I haven't played it yet because it hasn't come in yet. But you know, that game has been getting crazy, like, spectrums of things. Like mostly the consensus is the game is actually pretty good, but the graphics do look kind of garbage. But you know, it really depends. Like you kind of have to like know what you're getting into. Like if you like Pokemon, you're probably gonna like it anyway, like I am. It just depends how like the new stuff is gonna affect the gameplay, if it's in any meaningful way. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that goes into like these opinions and reviews and stuff. Like sometimes people just don't like Pokemon and are just gonna give it a lower score than usual, or sometimes people overly like Pokemon and give it like 5 out of 5s, even though it probably doesn't deserve it. But you know, again, it's always like objective or not objective, subjective, right? So
yeah, I mean that's just the thing with reviews, right? Like going back to the Last of Us, the sequel part 2, obviously the internet fucking hated it. No one really liked that game on the internet for the most part. You know, when you see like a sort of like no profile Andy on Twitter, they're probably not gonna like The Last of Us too.
Yeah.
But when it came to the reviews, a lot of people were actually like really enjoying it, and you know, were sort of you know, praising it for its gameplay, story, everything that it was doing. And, you know, for my own personal opinion in my own review, you know, I had my own take on it, and it's not 10 out of 10, but it's not necessarily a dog shit game either, because you can recognize and see how much time and care has been put into this, and you could see the direction that Neil Druckmann was trying to go for. But I'm not going to sort of clamor on part 2 any longer. But yeah, you can see that like review scores, you know, they can be helpful and can be handy as sort of like a very quick sort of engagement as to whether a game will be good or bad. But at the end of the day, it's never like the sort of final call for me personally.
Yeah, again, I just like to watch multiple reviews and just see what they think of the game. Like Arceus is actually, I mean, I already pre-ordered it because, you know, I'm a show, and I actually am really excited for the game. But you know, I watch a lot of different reviews of it, and that was how I was able to come up with this consensus. Like I was in my head that yeah, the game actually is pretty good, but you know, there's like some issues with like the graphics, and it gets a bit repetitive towards the end. But that's just Pokemon, honestly, in general. So yeah, you know, always, you know, do your research if you're really unsure about a game. I think that's always the best thing. Like, it's gonna take like some time to watch like a bunch of reviews and stuff. But also a good thing is to find a review you really like and you trust their opinion on. And usually, like I watch this guy called Skill Up, and like I really like his reviews because he's usually like pretty on point with how I feel about certain things. So obviously not all his opinions, but most of his opinions, I'm like, yeah, okay. And when I buy a game off his recommendation, usually I like end up liking it a lot. Like that's how I pulled the trigger on the Guardians of the Galaxy, because he reviewed it and said, yo, this game is really good. I'm like, okay, you know what, sure. And then I ended up loving it. So yeah, so it's either do a lot of research or just find out one reviewer you really click with, and then I think that should be enough to really make a good judgment on if you know if you're gonna buy a game or not, because games are expensive. So
oh yeah, 100%. And I think that one more example that I sort of want to bring up is with Returnal. You know, like that game was sort of the next biggest PlayStation 5 exclusive, and it came out and critics were like, yeah, you know, like this is like really, really good, you know, like 10 out of 10s, you know, praising it highly. And then people got their hands on it, and then they're like, wait, what the fuck? This is like a really good roguelike, but like they've never played a roguelike before. And, you know, they're really confused as to like how the game works. And, you know, there's like no save points and shit like that. So, you know, obviously those people were probably just looking at the scores and not realizing what they were getting into, because they thought it was like an action game or something like that, because that's kind of what it looks like. And then they get into it, and then they're like, wait, what the fuck, you know? But
that was so funny seeing that happen.
Yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day. Just like what Damien was saying, you know, do your own research. If you're really like trying to, you know, I guess not quote unquote waste your money and sort of like, not try to go in blind, because like I do that a lot. I'm gonna be honest. I sort of just like buy games, and if people say that they're good, I'll try it out. Fuck it, why not spend $60 and maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. But that's just how I work, and maybe you don't want to work like that because you value your money a lot more highly than I do.
Yeah, everyone's different. Find a way you want to spend your money and your time. That's just the kind of person I am too. I really like to look at things pretty deeply. Like when I play a new game, I like open the wiki immediately and see like all the min-max bullshit and stuff, because I just like doing that. Or you could be like Travis and just hop into the new experience like fresh and stuff, which is also like totally fine, because you could experience it for your own eyes really. So yeah, it really depends on what kind of person you are.
All right, so we're gonna move on from there.
That was a big tangent.
Hey, look, that's good. That's good, honestly. Now we're gonna talk about Mario Kart 9. There were some rumors and leaks and some other speculative bullshit that we can talk about. So last time we talked about it, we were sort of like on the idea of like, yeah, like, is it gonna be Smash Bros. Mario Kart or not? Who the hell knows? But some rumors and leakers have sort of come out and been saying some things. Obviously, we don't know how good they are as a source, but it's gonna be fun to sort of like think about what the new Mario Kart has entailed, just because I think one of these articles said that Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U came out like 7 years ago, which is fucking crazy to me, because I'm like, oh shit, like the game is actually like that old, because the deluxe version came out, which still 2017, which I think would now be like 5 years old. So Mario Kart's getting kind of old, and there are some sort of like details and speculation going on with it. So apparently it's going to come out this year in 2022, but on a new and improved Nintendo Switch. So the reasoning behind this is because, they launched the Switch with Mario Kart 8, and obviously that game has sold extremely well and is still selling well to this day because it's Mario Kart. So if they want to pull in new people onto this new Switch, they'll launch it with Mario Kart 9. So I think that makes sense. I think that that's sort of like a very reasonable sort of like rumor and leak to sort of spread around. So what do you think about that?
I think that these leakers have been saying there's been a new Switch like every freaking like month. But I mean, it's possible, because the Mario Kart 8 sold insane amounts of like copies since it came on Switch, and since it was like bundled with the Switch and stuff, and it just I think it is like the number one selling Switch game just because of that. So it's a really smart strategy for Nintendo to do, to like, hey, this is like a launch title for the Switch 2. And it wouldn't surprise me if like Breath of the Wild 2 also comes out this year or something, and also like is on the Switch too, right? Like it does the same thing that Twilight Princess and the original Breath of the Wild also did, where it's like, oh, it was on both consoles, like you play on the Switch 1 or 2. And I think it's time for a hardware update, honestly, because the Switch was very weak when it came out. But now seeing like like the Monolith developers who made Xenoblade basically keep complaining that the Switch is way too underpowered. Like they say they're running into a lot of issues making Xenoblade 3 because the Switch is so weak. So I'm really hoping that Nintendo is just like, okay, we'll make the Switch too. So yeah, it's something I really want to see at this point. It's gonna be a bitch to get our hands on one, because there's still like the shortages on everything.
Yeah, and
Nintendo sucks with stock. Like if you think it's a pain in the ass to get PS5 now, just wait till the Switch 2 comes out. That thing's gonna be impossible to get forever. So yeah, that's gonna be stressful. But I really hope there's a Switch 2 at like this year or next year. Like I don't know how likely this rumor leak is true. But I think it's time for a Switch 2 anyway. Like it's been like 5 years or something. So yeah, I'll be totally okay with this.
Yeah, I think a Switch Pro or a Switch 2, everyone's been wanting this for.
Yeah, I think we're past the Switch Pro at this point. I think it's going to be a Switch 2.
Yeah, definitely a sort of like a upgrade, a improvement, the next follow-up to the Nintendo Switch probably makes sense at this point. I know that console generations, as of recent, they're sort of like, they go on for, I think, 5 years or so, and then they sort of do the next one, I think. I'm not entirely sure.
Usually like 5-7 years.
Yeah. I haven't looked into like how long the PS4 was on the market for, or the PS3, etc. But, I feel like once we're at the 5-year point, I think people are sort of enticed to, get the next console for whatever company that is, whether it's Nintendo, PlayStation, or Microsoft. And I think a Switch 2, like you said, doing the same exact thing that they did with the original Switch with Mario Kart, Zelda Breath of the Wild, or heck, maybe even Metroid Prime 4, like that game's been in development for a while, and I think Retroware recently on Twitter, they were like, hey, we're like hiring, please help us with Metroid Prime 4. So
I saw that,
like that can also be a very possibility as well. And I think that a Switch 2 with Mario Kart 9 attached to it can be interesting, especially because this is going to be a actual sequel and not like a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sort of thing. The sort of gameplay attachment that people are throwing around is like being able to tackle other players, sort of like a cartoony way of actually hurting your opponent, not just with items but actually like tackling them. I don't know, that seems like a fun and wacky idea, something that I wouldn't imagine Mario Kart doing, but I'm sure that they might have looked at other kart racers and sort of games within this genre and been like, hey, like what if we did it for Mario Kart? And I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I think that some people would not exactly gravitate towards it, because Mario Kart, it is a kids game, it is a sort of Nintendo game at the end of the day, but it's never been super wacky and super cartoony in that way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I think the gimmick's kind of cool. I mean, I'd make it more like I guess like a combat racer, like Jack X or something. I mean, I don't think that's the best example to do, but I guess that's what they're trying to make their own spin on, is like more that vehicular combat type game. I don't know how big this tackle is gonna be. I don't know if it's like a side swipe or like a little charge you do. But that sounds like it'd be really troll. Like, imagine you're both like on the edge. People like try and nudge you off. Like, now you can just yeet them off with like a tackle. That'd be really annoying. But it seems like it could bring more like actual skill to the game. Like, if you know when to tackle someone, and hopefully the tackle, assuming this is all true, hopefully the tackle has like either a cooldown or some way to punish you if you do whiff it or something, because then the other person can like counter play you. I think that'd be pretty neat. And hopefully, I mean, this leak says, best way to describe it is Mario Kart, cross Smash Brothers. I don't know if that means just with the being able to knock people out or with the online features, or if it means that other characters of other Nintendo games are going to be in this. Honestly, I think that is a good step forward. Like, I know some people don't like the idea of Mario Kart becoming like Smash Brothers, like in terms of its roster, but like I said in the last podcast, like, do you really want like all the Koopalings? Like, I don't. I'd rather have like Kirby or something. I think that's cooler.
Do you want gold Luigi? Or actually, you know what? Peach? They actually might want that. They actually might want gold Luigi, but you get the idea.
Yeah, like I think the character like selection would be way more exciting if they did that. And like we were saying before, I think unlockables will also be a pretty neat way. I personally want like a more robust single player, but it sounds like they're not going to be doing that from these leaks. It sounds like they're doubling down on the online aspect, which is fine. I think Mario Kart 8 probably has the best online of any Nintendo Switch game, because usually when I play it online, it's like pretty okay. Like I never had too many issues with it. But
yeah, because I think it's not peer to peer. It's like an actual server.
Oh, is it a
because
server? Okay.
I'm pretty sure, because there's no way you do peer to peer with like 10 other players in a lobby, right? Or whatever.
That's true.
So, but yeah, I think that the weekly challenges in the sort of like online community, sort of expanding that for Mario Kart 9 can be pretty cool. I think, like you said, Mario Kart Online, I don't really run into that many issues with it. I mean, the only time Mario Kart Online has been trash has been on the Wii, but that's years and years ago. And at this point, Mario Kart 8's online. Every single time I've played it personally, it wasn't that bad. So, and the whole thing with Smash Brothers and sort of bringing in other Nintendo IPs or even third-party IPs into Mario Kart can be a lot of fun. I think that bringing in, maybe like Olimar and Kirby and all of these other Nintendo franchises into Mario Kart, that could be pretty cool. And also with them comes with their tracks, and you could bring a track from each one of those franchises and sort of see how that all plays out. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, we don't want the Koopalings. We don't want pink gold Daisy or some shit, like we want some actual like cool characters that could also bring in tracks and other things like music and all of that other stuff, kart pieces and special carts. So yeah, I think that whatever, Mario Kart 9 brings us, hopefully some of this stuff is true. And maybe there's some other surprises that we don't know about yet also thrown in there. But, Mario Kart 9, whenever or if ever this game ever comes out, I think that it'll be obviously like a hot seller and very, very exciting to see a brand new Mario Kart game after it's been like 5 years. So,
yeah, so either like the next Direct or the E3 Direct is going to be pretty spicy, because there's a lot of rumors floating around and a lot of things that we don't know yet. So yeah, whenever the next Nintendo Direct is, hopefully it's going to be pretty good, because the only other first party Nintendo game that's left to come out is Kirby at this point because Pokemon just came out. So like that's the only one left in my eyes. Like obviously Breath of the Wild we don't know. Metro Prime 4 that's like that's there. So yeah, we don't really know. There's rumors there's also like a Fire Emblem game coming out. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff, And hopefully all this stuff is just both for the Nintendo Switch 2 if it's a thing, or the Nintendo Switch 1. Like hopefully it's for both. We'll see, and hopefully it's backwards compatible because that would suck if it wasn't.
Yeah, stick with the cartridges because I think that because they went for the sort of like half portable, half actual home console route, the cartridges obviously it has to be a mainstay because no one's gonna be lugging around discs and shit like that. So
yeah, that wouldn't. It'd be like the PSP, like the UMDs. I don't want to deal with that.
All right, so moving on from there, we're going to get into our recent activities. I will actually go first because I think I could talk about a lot of these very, very quickly. So I saw Scream 5, and I'm going to let you guys know right now, I don't watch Scream movies. I mean, I'm fine with like the horror genre and horror movies as of recent, but I watched this movie not knowing anything about Scream. So like when other characters and sort of references were brought up, I was in the fucking dark. But the movie itself is like very, very good. As like a newcomer and sort of like my first ever Scream movie, I know it is the 5th one and I'm watching it as my first one as this one. But it's very good. I think that this sort of slasher movie sort of mystery, like who's the killer sort of thing, they honestly executed it very, very well and sort of was able to like piece it all together by the end of it. And a few days after I was sort of like thinking about the movie and how like everything sort of pieced together. And I was like, wow, like that was really fucking smart. So it's still in theaters. So if you are a Scream fan, you probably already watched it. But, if you want to watch a horror movie in the middle or at the end of January, beginning of February, go out and watch it. I think that it is a lot of fun. So next we got here is a lot of anime. That's pretty much the rest of my recent activities. So Osamake, Romcom where the childhood friend won't lose. I finished it because I was like, I don't like putting things on pause or dropping shows. I honestly, if I watch episode 1, I'm gonna watch the rest, even if it's like fucking terrible. And this isn't terrible, like 100% terrible. Like there are some like genuine things that I honestly like about it. Like for example, the art style is honestly like pretty good for like a slice of life. Like it's sort of it doesn't look like sort of flat. There's actual some like I guess like shading, if I can say that. Like there's a distinct art style for this show. The story's a little wacky. So pretty much it's a rom-com where the childhood friend won't lose, but there's not one childhood friend, there's multiple, and you'll learn who they are and how they connect to the main character as his childhood friend. And yeah, it's really all over the place for like a sort of slice of life harem rom-com sort of bullshit. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, like, all right, whatever, like and as for like the funny elements to it, like, it's just like, what the fuck is going on sort of thing. But like, it's not like funny, because like when I watch Girlfriend, like I know what the fuck I'm getting into. This guy has 2 girlfriends and they both consented to that shit. So the situations that they get in that show is honestly very, very funny. And I honestly had like a very, very good time watching that show. But for this one, I was sort of just like neutral, just like trying to get to the trying to get to the end of it. The story is kind of interesting, the sort of like backstory between all of the girls and the sort of main guy. But yeah, this one you could honestly skip out on if you're sort of into the slice of life romance comedy sort of bullshit animes like I am. Next one we got here is Orient. This is a anime that's going on right now. I believe it's like a shonen sort of show. I watched the first 3 episodes, so that's why I'm talking about it now. It's kind of interesting. It sort of feels like the same vein of like Fire Force, where it's I can see signs of like this being good and sort of signs of this being like pulling elements from other shonen. The first 3 episodes, they go into a lot of the sort of like main characters' backstories, and by the end of episode 3, they sort of go on like their big adventures. So hopefully it gets better from here. This is very like a not popular sort of shonen action anime, obviously, because no one's really talking about it, and I don't think a lot of people read the manga. But yeah, so far I'm enjoying it for what it is. I know what I'm getting into, so it's not sort of anything that I'm like blown away by yet. But so far so good. My Dress Up Darling. So this is an anime that I think a lot of people are watching.
Yeah,
surprisingly,
it really popped off.
Yeah, it really did pop off because what's her name? Kitagawa. She is best girl. She's fucking best girl this season. And, I already knew that, like, because I'm a manga reader, I'm going to be that fucking guy. But, seeing her and Gojo sort of figure out, like, how they want to make this cosplay for her because, he's sort of like an outsider that makes Hina dolls, and then she comes in and, she wants his help to make this cosplay. And, like, he sees, like, the cosplay that she's made so far, and he's like, this is fucking dog shit. Like, what the fuck are you doing? So, he sort of comes in and sort of helps her with that aspect. And you sort of see their friendship and their relationship sort of grow, and it's very wholesome. And this show definitely does have some sort of, like, I guess, fan servicey moments, but that's that's just from, like, the manga, and that's just sort of how it is. Like, it is a little distracting, but, like, you have a guy who's, like, very socially fucking awkward, and then you have this girl who's, like, the most popular girl in school, and she wants to do cosplay, and, he's trying to help her, and, like, he's never been alone with the girl in a room, so you see how that shit plays out. But yeah, like, this is very, very fun, and I definitely recommend anyone to really watch it, and not to watch it right now, but maybe wait until the end of it, just because I feel like that this could get a season 2, and I don't know where this is going to end because there's only 4 volumes out in English. This is still a ongoing series, so I don't know where season 1's going to end. I have an idea, but I'm not entirely sure because obviously when it comes to a anime adaptation, they sort of tend to, like, stretch sort of like storylines and chapters out to sort of, fill in the sort of episodes. But yeah, so far so good. If you are fans of slice of life, romance, comedy, sort of, bullshit, along with some ecchi stuff in there, this is definitely right up your fucking alley because it is very, very good. And I'm enjoying watching it every single week, along with Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan, which I'm not going to talk about just because there's, like, spoilers and I don't really want to, get into that. But,
it's
Attack
very
on Titan,
good.
And yes, that's all we can really say. It's very, very fucking good. If you aren't caught up on either of those shows, do yourselves a favor and catch up on them. Last thing I got here is Teasing Master Tagaki-san Season 3. So, it is on High Dive, and I don't have High Dive. So, I'm...
what the hell is High Dive? I think you talked about it before.
Yeah. So High Dive is like the third streaming anime service next to, like, Crunchyroll and Funimation, but it's, like, super, like, not well known. They have some, like, very, like, weird and sort of, like, underrated shows, but somehow they got Tagaki-san Season 3. But I don't have High Dive, so, I'm out here going on the internet, there's some pop-up ads here and there. Anyways, look, I love this fucking show so much. I'm not going to pay for High Dive or do this free trial bullshit because it's not going to last the full, like, 12 weeks as these shows are airing. Anyways, Tagaki-san, Season 3, very fucking good. It's still the same old bullshit, sort of, like, slice of life comedy where, Tagaki-san's just fucking messing with Nishikata. But they actually do take advantage of the anime element pretty well. Like, there's an episode where they literally don't talk and it's all, like, sound effects and you sort of see it, like, visually happen. So that was, like, very fun to see. And then they also sort of tie it back to the ending of season 2. Not going to spoil it, but if you watch season 2 and you know how that ended, a lot of people were wondering how they were going to go off from there because that was a non-canon, non-manga ending. So, and they obviously address it in a way that I think fit the show, and I cannot wait to see how they progress the sort of storyline with Tagaki-san and Nishikata, because there is going to be a movie of this show as well, so that's kind of crazy, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, so far so good for season 3 of Tagaki-san. I am very much enjoying it. So, Damien, what have you been doing?
All right, so honestly, not much. So, like, Tales of Arise, I didn't play too much of it this week. Last week I played a bunch of it. I thought I was going to be at least be able to get almost done, but I'm not, because the game is actually, like, pretty longer than I thought, because I'm, like, 35 hours in.
Holy shit.
And I think there's at least, like, my brother told me, because he didn't play the game, but he knows the certain things. Like, did you get to, like, the second anime opening yet? I'm like, there's a second anime opening? And he's like, oh, then you're not even halfway. I'm like, oh shit. So yeah, the game's going to take me a while. And unfortunately, it's probably going to take a back burner because we're hitting February, which means that there's a shit ton of games coming out, including Arceus, Horizon, the Guild Wars 2 expansion, Dying Light 2, which I hope is good, and Elden Ring, which I probably won't play just yet. But, there's a lot of games coming out. So yeah, Tales of Arise might need to take a back burner for a little bit while I play, like, the actual relevant things coming out. But we'll see. And then Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. So I played this when it came out, and then I was playing SMT. And then that's when I said, yo, SMT is just better than this. Then I kind of just dropped it for a while. But now that Legends Arceus is coming out, I'm like, okay, let me finish this so I could say it's done. So I finished it. I did everything. I did the post game and caught the other legendaries and stuff. And yeah, I could definitely say this is definitely the weakest remake they have done. Fire Red Leaf Green, Heart Gold Soul Silver, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. I think they all brought more to their respective region than this game has, because they've done stuff to actually improve the game. Brilliant Diamond is just a straight up remake, like they said, and they weren't lying. Like, yeah, they added fairy types and like some updated abilities and stuff, but I just don't think it's enough to really like make you buy the game again. Like, if you have Platinum and a DS, then I'll just say play that instead. If you've never played Sinnoh before or like Gen 4, then sure, knock it out. Like, it's still a good game because it's Gen 4 and I like Gen 4. But if you've already played these games, then honestly, I just don't think they're worth the money. Like all the new stuff they added, like just isn't enough to really justify the price. If like it should have been like a budget game. It should have been either $40 or $50. If it was, then I probably would give it a little more slack. But the fact that it's $60 for this does make it like a lot more like why. Though I am excited for Legends Arceus because it does seem like a lot of effort is being put into that game. And I would say I was not excited for that game. Like I was like, I wouldn't say I was not excited for it, but I was very skeptical. I can't talk. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I was very like sussy about that game because there's a lot of things that are pointing that they weren't really showing a whole lot. Like like there weren't that many trailers for it. It seems like they weren't very confident in the game. But a week before the game actually came out, there's been a ton of leaks about the game. And that actually got my hype super up because I saw a lot, not too many spoiler things, but just a lot of things how the game would play and stuff. And the leakers are really enjoying it. I saw a lot of the new Pokemon. Some of them look a little stupid, but for the most part, I think they look okay. The region itself looks pretty cool. So yeah, those leaks really got me excited. Like this is the first time I've been properly excited for a Pokemon game since like Sun and Moon, I think. Because I'm gonna be honest, a lot of the Switch Pokemon games have been really mid. Like base Sword and Shield was really mid. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee mid. This game was very mid. So yeah, I'm hoping Arceus is able to change my mind and I could like really enjoy it. Because actually I'm very excited for that game right now. So I'm just waiting for it to come in. But yeah, that's about all. But obviously I watched Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer and really fucking good. So yeah, like God, like the animation for Demon Slayer though, like oh my lord, dude. Yeah, it's really good. That's all I gotta say. So
all right. So we will move on from there.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this because this is kind of.
You got it, bro. Go for it.
All right. So Microsoft last week, I think, right? It was last week.
Yeah.
They purchased Blizzard. Oh, I guess it's Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion. That's a lot of money. I think that's probably one of the biggest like purchases we've seen in ever. Like Disney bought like Star Wars for like not even that much. Like same thing with Marvel. You have right here, like Facebook, like they bought Instagram for only $1 billion, and that was a huge deal. Earlier, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I can't remember. Microsoft bought Bethesda, and I think that was for like $7 billion, and that was a huge deal for the gaming space as well. This is insane. So just to put it in perspective, they now own all of the Blizzard IPs. They own Candy Crush, which actually is a big deal, and they own Call of Duty, like all of it. Because of Activision. And if you want the tinier things, which is kind of a bigger deal for us, like Crash, Spyro, they also own them as well, but they probably don't care that much. So yeah, they own all of that now, and that's crazy. And this is kind of a big thing for like third parties, right? Because now it's like, okay, a massive third party just got eaten up by a first party like studio, and that got a lot of people kind of scared because it could mean like this like merger of all video games being only bought by like big three people, right? Like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Nintendo probably isn't going to buy anyone.
Yeah,
but Microsoft
they're chilling.
Yeah, they're just chilling. Nintendo just chills. They don't buy it. They don't even own like retro. They just let them do whatever they want. They like Sakurai is also technically like a freelance guy. Like he just works with Nintendo. But anyway, so it's really between Microsoft and Sony, but it could just end up just buying all these studios, so like they don't risk them being exclusive to that one platform. And that got a lot of people scared. I have my mind in two ways about this. My first thought when I saw this news in the morning of like Tuesday, I was like, oh shit, Blizzard could be good again. And that's a really like short-sighted way of seeing things. I think this is going to be an overall kind of a negative thing for gaming if Microsoft doesn't play nice, and I don't really expect them to, because this is, you don't buy do a $68 billion purchase and not make this shit exclusive, right? Like you're gonna want to make all this stuff exclusive to your platform. Phil Spencer says here that he's going to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, which I kind of doubt. Maybe like the next Call of Duty, because they probably are producing the next Call of Duty, right? That's probably in production already.
Yeah.
That's probably is going to be multi-platform. But I think after that, the future Call of Duty is going to be a little weird if they're going to just keep it on PlayStation or not. And I heard some other talks that, you know, it also makes sense to make them all multi-platform because, again, it is a big purchase. So they probably don't want to just have all their income from one, like their own source, because it probably won't make as much money if it was also on PlayStation. So, yeah, I could see both coins of it. But I think for the most part, they're going to keep most of the stuff only on Microsoft, like on Xboxes and stuff, like especially for Blizzard IPs. Like I think Overwatch 2 might come out on multi-platform, but after that, like Diablo 4 might only be on like Xbox consoles and PC, obviously. So yeah, that's obviously a big worry because it just means that if you don't have an Xbox or a PC at this point, you're going to be missing out on a lot of stuff. And that's, you know, that's just capitalism, you know what I mean? And before I get into like the other stuff, do you have any, thoughts on this huge ass purchase?
Of fucking course, bro. I mean, yeah, this shit was crazy because like I kind of like you as well. I kind of woke up and I was like, wait, what the fuck's going on? Yeah. Because one of the group chats that I'm a part of, they were sort of like blowing up and I was like, what the hell are they talking about? And then I went on Twitter and I was like, oh shit, Microsoft did that, huh? Yeah, I mean, nearly $70 billion for this one company. And someone tweeted out, I'm not sure how true this is, but you know, that's like, if they wanted to, they could purchase Nintendo with that much money, but obviously Nintendo would not say yes to that. 100%. Yeah. Because I think that's happened in the past where Microsoft tried to buy Nintendo and then they just laughed at them. But anyways, yeah, like this is a huge purchase, a huge acquirement. I think that the one thing that really stuck out to me was that when Phil Spencer was like, we're gonna renegotiate our relations with Activision Blizzard, and then they just fucking bought them, and I was like, okay, like that's a Chad move if I've ever fucking seen one. Like that shit is just fucking crazy to me. But yeah, I think the fear out of just like exclusivity and sort of keeping this all to Microsoft's self, like, you know, there is that genuine fear there, and that's very warranted. But I feel like with the way that Microsoft has been playing their role within the gaming industry as of recent, you know, they've been very friendly. They've been very sort of, you know, like very willing to work with others as opposed to Nintendo, who sort of just, you know, does their own thing, and that's fine. And as opposed to Sony / PlayStation, where they sort of just like try to get whatever they can and sort of, you know, keep, you know, competition on their side and sort of continue winning, quote unquote, the gaming generation of whatever console that they're in. So yeah, having things like Candy Crush, Call of Duty, Overwatch all under Microsoft is a little much, you know, like that is very, very good for them, obviously. And with Activision Blizzard, you know, with everything that's been going on internally for them, and people are wondering how leadership is going to be handled. I believe Bobby, whatever the fuck his name
Bobby
is,
Kotick, yeah,
doesn't matter to me. You know, he's still going to be under Blizzard as of right now, but I think a lot of people are hoping that once Microsoft fully acquires them, because I think this will go into effect next year or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be next year.
So, you know, once that goes in, I feel like, or I hope that Microsoft just sort of like fires everyone from like, you know, sort of like very high positions of power and sort of rebuilds from there, because, you know, you sort of can't just like, you know, have them, you know, do like these therapy meetings and shit like that to be like, have you changed? And then they say yes, and then you just move on with it. No, like people aren't gonna let that shit slide anymore in 2022. So, you know, I think that, you know, if he stays on after Microsoft fully acquire them, that's a huge fucking red flag. But I feel like that's not going to happen, because Phil Spencer was very sort of adamant in terms of like, you know, being like, we're going to renegotiate our thing with Activision. And I'm like, well, they're probably not going to say no to Activision games. So what the fuck are they going to do? They just bought them, and now they're just getting more of the pie, as Activision games are third-party games, and those are going to go to other platforms, including Nintendo and PlayStation. And, you know, for IPs like us, when it comes to Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, I'm wondering, are they going to make more games like that? Because, you know, Crash Bandicoot 4 was a very colorful platformer that a lot of people enjoyed and, you know, sold decently well as far as I know. And I know that they also talked about reviving old IPs. So, people are bringing into the question of like Guitar Hero or, other IPs that are under Activision's belt and things like that. They are going to go back into their catalog of IPs and maybe dig up some old ones and revive them in some way, shape, or form, which can be very, very exciting. So yeah, whatever happens with this deal, I have full faith that Microsoft isn't going to fuck us over. And I'll say that now. And, hopefully a year from now, they aren't, being total, corporate douchebags and sort of keeping everything to themselves, because they have that full right to do so once this deal fully goes through. But, I feel like that they know that it just benefits the gaming sphere to just have everything the way it is right now, but just under their leadership and their management.
Yeah, and because of that, I highly doubt Bobby Kotick is going to live. He's going to live, but he's going to be outed probably because Phil Spencer wants to keep that image. I think he's really built Microsoft to be more of like the, we're gamers, and he probably doesn't want Bobby Kotick to be here anymore. Again, it sucks that he's gonna leave with a shit ton of money out of this deal. He doesn't really care, right? He doesn't care about video games or anything. Bobby Kotick, he just cares about his money and stuff. And this is a perfect escape route to really just leave from. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. To him, there's no real difference between 140 million I think he was gonna get to 400 something million he's gonna get now. All that, it's he already has anything he's gonna buy anyway. He just has more money now. Again, it sucks, but not to be politically anything, but rich people just kind of just get away with anything anyway. They could do whatever they want.
Yeah,
and which sucks, but just honestly, that's just kind of how it happens. This man should be in jail, but he's not, and he probably would never be. But that's just kind of how it is. So it kind of sucks that he is pretty much just getting away with this scot free. He basically burned his whole company to the ground. And he's just okay, I'm just gonna leave now that the stocks are going down. And Microsoft saw that as an opportunity to just buy Activision, which makes sense, but it was also just a good way for him to get out of all this. So again, that sucks, but hopefully with a new leadership with Phil Spencer and just Microsoft in general, hopefully Blizzard employees and everyone at Activision, Toys for Bob, Vicarious Visions, and all of them could get just better treatment than they are right now, because it was really bad as we explained. And hopefully these companies could, do more things except just Call of Duty. I know Vicarious Visions was fused into Blizzard. Hopefully Microsoft could just pull them out and hey, you guys can be Vicarious Visions again. Do what you do. And it's really cool because Toys for Bob, they're not even just limited to Crash and Spyro. They could do a Banjo-Kazooie thing if they wanted to. They could do a Banjo remake, a re-jiggy edition or something. I don't know. That would be pretty cool as well. And yeah, Phil Spencer did say he was interested in reviving more of the classic IPs like Guitar Hero and Crash and Spyro again. So a Spyro 4 coast would be good for those fans because they didn't get one. So I say the future is both bright and it's really weird. I don't really know how I feel because I think the games in general will get better. I think we're gonna get more platformers from these classic IPs. We're gonna get better Blizzard games again, thank God. Because, I've been kind of dying here. I mean, no mention of StarCraft yet, but I really hope we get something with StarCraft. And, hopefully Call of Duty can also improve its quality as well. Because, Call of Duty, Vanguard, no one talked about Vanguard. I don't think, anyone really cared about that game. So, hopefully Call of Duty can also get a good boost in quality. It's just kind of, again, it's weird. I think overall it's kind of bad for the overall gaming landscape to have less third parties, but I think it's better in this case because it was Activision Blizzard. You know what I mean? If it was anyone else, it probably would have been bad. If Sony started buying Square Enix and stuff and all that, that seems a little worse because Square makes good stuff for Nintendo platforms as well. But they have to agree to it, obviously. So it's not I don't think they could just yoink them without their consent or whatever. But it's gonna be interesting. And also, this is totally unrelated. Blizzard's making a new survival game. It's those just announced that. Hey, we're making that. So that was kind of just there. So it's gonna be interesting to see what everyone does at this point. And we won't really see the effects of this for a few years, probably. Bethesda, we're just starting to see how that's gonna affect them with Starfield when that comes out this year, I think. So we're just gonna wait at least 2 years or something. Yeah, and see how this just affects everyone.
Mm-hmm. And going back on sort of reviving old IPs, one of them I think was mentioned was Skylanders, and I'm shit, if they happen to do that, I don't know how they would, because I think a lot of people were sort of burnt out with sort of buying toys and shit that.
Toys for Life games.
But that sort of generation of Toys for Life stuff really defined a generation of kids that were playing games, and that's kind of crazy when you really think about it, because Skylanders was like the first one to really do it. And in my opinion, like obviously like I was a little older, so I really didn't get into it. But when that sort of stuff came out, I was like, wow, this shit's like really popping off and like doing kind of well. You know, people are out here trying to find certain Skylanders and certain exclusives and shit like that. And, you know, it was very, very interesting times, because, you know, everyone else was sort of getting on that train with, you know, the Disney Infinity stuff, even amiibos to a certain extent. But obviously it's Nintendo, so they're able to sort of keep that alive in their own sort of like little bubble. But yeah, you know, Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, this is the biggest sort of business purchase in the gaming space so far, and I wonder if there's going to be any more in the future that are as big as this or even bigger, because, you know, it's kind of hard to beat $70 billion.
Yeah, I think everyone put the market caps. I saw on Twitter, and Activision Blizzard was definitely the biggest one. Like the next one, obviously EA is like 40-something billion, and I think EA isn't gonna want to just like let it go like that. Yeah, I know, you know, EA bad and stuff, but they treat their workers well, so that's good. But yeah, I don't really see any other companies really wanting to do, like Sony has to do something, right? Because Sony's kind of sweating. They're like, okay, well,
oh yeah,
like yeah, Sony's got like a great IPs, right? Like I'm always gonna buy first party Sony games because I know they're good, right? And I like their IPs a lot. Blizzard's kind of just buying things. I don't really associate. I'm not gonna ever associate like StarCraft with like as a Microsoft IP, right? Like that doesn't really connect with me. But when I think of like Uncharted or Ratchet and Clank and stuff, like that's I'm always gonna associate with Sony. Even like Crash and Spyro, I still associate with Sony more than Microsoft. Yep. So. Yeah, this idea of just buying your first parties is still kind of weird to me, because I just don't really associate them with like Microsoft. I don't really have brand loyalty with them still. So I mean, yeah, I use like Windows, but you know, whatever. So yeah, it's kind of interesting their approach to this stuff. Also means Game Pass is about to get like a whole lot better.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, Game Pass is gonna be fucking insane. I mean, you know, they're able to now dig into those library of games and now bring that to Game Pass as well, which, you know, probably has Sony sweating, because, you know, there was that rumor a month or so back with Spartacus, with the sort of like backlog of everything PlayStation related, including PS1, 2, 3, PSP, all of that shit on that one sort of service. And if PlayStation's able to pull it off, they might be able to match with Microsoft doing with Game Pass, but it would have to be at the same price and the sort of like same library of games that everyone sort of wants. You know, it can't be like with the sort of PS1 Classic with like a lot of those games people like, what the fuck is this shit, you know? Or like with how Nintendo's doing their Switch Online stuff, which I doubt anyone else is going to adopt that, where they're just like slowly turning out games for some reason. But yeah, Game Pass is already insane as like a service as is, and now that they have Activision under their belt, they're able to pull more games from that sort of library of games without having to, you know, go through multiple barriers to do so.
Yeah, like Game Pass is like such a good deal. Like, if you're just a type of person who just wants to play whatever they want, then just buy Game Pass. Like, I had it for a little bit, and like, yeah, this is great, but I just don't really have time, because usually I want to play like the newer games coming out anyway, and usually not going to be too much on Game Pass. If it's, you know, if it's a Microsoft exclusive game, then yeah, which I guess might happen now, but you know, that's just yeah. But if you just want to play whatever you want, then just get the Game Pass. It's a really good deal. But yeah. It's just a crazy thing. Like, I'm pretty sure this is like the biggest purchase that's happened for like anything. Like, I don't think like I've seen, like, money is becoming so crazy now that I'm like, is this like normal now? Like $68 billion like a normal for a company?
It's like, shit, I got $20 in my account. Can y'all?
Yeah,
like...
I got $68 in my account. Is that enough? But yeah, again, so it's like I just, you know, maybe Overwatch 2 could come out now. And like, hey, look, I won't feel guilty about buying Blizzard games anymore. I know they didn't release any since that point, but you know, I could buy Overwatch 2 while feeling like an asshole. So that's good.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say on it. The last thing I really wanted to bring up was Game Pass. But is there anything else you'd like to add to the discussion?
No, I think I said everything I want to say.
All right, so that is it for this episode of the Travis Damian Podcast, episode 79. We'll see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
Later.